Good morning. How's everybody doing today? Good. Thank you so much for coming out today. This is an exciting morning because this is the culmination of a whole lot of work today by a whole lot of people, including many of you in the room right now. So thank you so much for everybody who's been a part of this. We're really excited today to officially release the St. Paul Transit-Oriented Guidebook for the Central Corridor today. We're really excited to officially release the St. Paul Transit-Oriented Guidebook for the Central Corridor today. All right, thanks. I practiced that one at home, so I was thinking it was gonna get a big, you know, how we develop in our community is so important. How we develop, not just sort of what we build, but how we build and what that design looks like. How we develop the kind of physical infrastructure in our community, how it looks, how it feels, how it interacts with our community and the environment, certainly how it interacts with our transit system. You know, we're learning a whole lot. I got a chance this past year to serve on the Met Council nominating committee for the governor, and we had a lot of conversation at that place about the fact that this work shouldn't just be about like affordable housing over here and transit over here and all of this work sort of in these compartmentalized silos, but it should really be about figuring out how all of these things work together, right? How a first-class transit system interacts with incredible affordable housing and mixed-use housing, how all of that interacts with the neighborhood livability goals that we have. And so this work has been the culmination of many years of work to figure out along the Central Corridor, what is the right mix of development? How should we go about building along this line? And so we're really excited to release this because this will hopefully give us the framework for which we're going to build the future of this corridor. And many of you are here like me because we know that the future of this corridor really goes hand in hand with the future of our city and the future of our metropolitan area, as this is the biggest public work investment in the history of our state. So I'm really excited to be here, happy that you're here, and very happy as well to be joined by the guy who my 3-year-old refers to as my brother because we spend so much time together. My colleague on the other side of University Avenue, Russ Stark.
And I take the moniker uncle very seriously in that case. Pleasure to see so many people here this morning. And those of you who know me will know that I often don't have a whole lot of words coming out of my mouth at any given time. But if there's one topic that I can talk about all day, it's development along this avenue. It's the topic I've been focused on for all of my 12 years that I've been in this community, and it's the reason I ran for office. And so it's really exciting to hit another milestone here today with all the great work that happened creating the Central Corridor Development Strategy that then got translated into the zoning study that's now being translated into sort of more fine-grained ideas about how we're actually going to piece together high-quality development and placemaking around this corridor. And there's no greater opportunity, frankly, in our community or really in this region to create a really wonderful live, work, play environment than right here along this avenue. And this building, among many others, is a great sort of shining new example of what that future corridor really will and needs to look like. I had some of you may have read about it in the paper recently. I had the pleasure of having a neighborhood so passionate about our Central Corridor development strategy and plan that we actually had kind of a little bit of a rumble about the design of a building in our community. And you know, it's not necessarily a pretty thing when those things happen, but to have people fighting for this great vision that we've put together as a community over the last several years is really a great development in my mind and a positive thing to see. So with that, I'm thrilled to let you know that we've got 2 developers joining us today to sort of talk about, from their perspective, the development of this corridor and the new document that's going to be released. And I'd first like to introduce Steve Cramer, President and Executive Director of Project for Pride in Living. And some of you may know that PPL is actually planning a new mixed-use development at the old Midway Chev block between Hamilton and Syndicate on the north side of University. And me and my neighbors are thrilled that that's the case. So welcome, Steve.
Oh, thank you, Councilmember Stark, and let me say we've really appreciated your strong interest in the early planning stages, and we've also had wonderful community input to shape the plans that we're developing. I was asked to talk a little bit about our proposed project, and PPL and Excelsior Bay Partners are planning a 4-story mixed-use project extending the length of the Midway Chev block, but really anchored at Hamlin Avenue to take advantage of the station at that corner. We're planning roughly 120 units of affordable rental housing with a mix of bedroom sizes, along with 13,000 square feet of street-level commercial. From a housing density standpoint, that equals 64 units an acre. So it's a step up in density from a project like Frogtown Square as an example, but not a dramatic leap, because any project along Central Corridor, at least in our location, is going to also be a neighbor to a predominantly single-family neighborhood to the north. So it's got to create that kind of transition while also respecting and honoring the vision for transit-oriented development along Central Corridor. From a design standpoint, the challenge is a long, narrow length of the site. So the project from the street will appear as 2 separate buildings connected at the street level by a courtyard, but then connected below ground by a parking structure that will be accessed off Hamlin Avenue behind the building. It will also have important green features, retain and reuse all stormwater on site. It'll use about half the energy of a comparable building built to current building codes, just as an example. I think a big part of the development challenge really parallels the transportation challenge, which is transitioning University Avenue from a zoom car-oriented street to one that really welcomes transit and offers a more pedestrian, resident-friendly experience. But that challenge is also the opportunity, because people want to live in exactly that kind of place, as both Councilmember Stark and Carter have said. And if I can put in a plug for the guidebook, from an early peak, I think it will greatly aid developers and property owners and residents and really all stakeholders who are committed to the success of Central Corridor as a transit and community development initiative. We're glad to be part of the early planning and look forward to working with all of you in the months and years ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. You know, we can't understate I'm sorry, let me start over. You can't overstate the importance of having good developers in our community who really want to kind of not just build a building that works for them, but really builds in a way that works for the community and goes along with the kind of community vision that's been laid out. So it's fantastic to have you, Steve, here, as well as Colleen Carey, who I'd like to introduce next, president of the Cornerstone Group. Colleen led the development of the Lyric, one of the first high-density, market-rate housing projects on the transit corridor. The project was totally privately financed and is another great example of good transit-oriented development. Colleen?
Thanks. It's nice to be here to celebrate another milestone for St. Paul as we think about how this corridor can really transform the region. And the Lyric was a really fun project to work on. I have to say, it's not the standard project in some respects. The owner, we are not the owner, we were the developer, and it was wonderful to work with an owner who had such a long-term view of what they wanted to accomplish. And they saw the light rail line as the impetus for doing the project. So the Lyric wouldn't be there today if it weren't for the fact that the light rail is coming through. So you can see what the possibilities are for really taking a long-term view, having high standards about quality, and having a really positive impact on the community, which the Lyric, I think, has done and will continue to do as the rail gets finished up. So a great opportunity to think about what can happen. Another opportunity to think about what can happen, I saw with a number of you a few weeks ago. I was in Portland taking a look at how they have captured the value of transit there. And I think one of the really important things that Portland has done, and I'm anxious for us to do it here, is to set the table. You guys were talking about great developers, and you know the other thing that is part of the equation in great cities with great thinking about how to use this resource we have. This is an incredible investment, and it's got the potential to transform things, but we have to set the table. And I think that this development guidebook is part of of how we can set the table so that we can make it easier for developers and cities to work together with neighborhoods to create projects that really have the kinds of outcomes we're looking for. And having been in Portland and seen what they've accomplished, I'm just really excited about this and anxious to get to work. So thanks.
Well, thank you, Colleen. And it's now my pleasure to introduce Ann Mulholland, who many of you know used to work even more closely with us day to day in City Hall, but is now the co-chair of the Central Corridor Funders Collaborative and also serves as vice president of grants and programs with the St. Paul Foundation. And Ann's going to talk to us a little bit about the guidebook and how it became possible. Thank you, Ann.
It's great to be here today. The Central Corridor Funders Collaborative, as most of you know, is a group of national and local funders who believe passionately in the Central Corridor light rail line, not just because it's a great regional economic boom for the community, but because for the people and the neighbors that live right around us here today, it is the opportunity to really improve the communities, the housing, the jobs that they have access to. So it's a great opportunity for all of us at the Central Corridor Funders Collaborative to be engaged in this important work. What's really important for us to focus on as investors is the community's voice, to make sure the community has a voice in what happens around them with this extraordinary opportunity happening. I view this guidebook as a giant invitation for everyone to invest and to see the potential of what's ahead of us. The folks that live and work here today know what a jewel this area is, and the opportunity to invite everyone else in is what's really happening here today. So we are a proud partner of this great project here today, and we are thrilled to be inviting every investor and developer into this great work. So thanks.
Thank you, Ann. I think that's a very important point, that this is certainly, that's exactly what this is a huge invitation, because as we build this policy of environment around here, we want to do it in a way that encourages development, that invites development, that creates more development, and creates it in a way that brings some good jobs to our community, that really honors the historic nature of this community, and that uses our land efficiently. And so the person whose job that is to do on a day-to-day basis is Cecile Bedor, who's the director of the City of St. Paul's Department of Planning and Economic Development. Cecile has been a tireless advocate for quality development along Central Corridor and throughout our city that anticipates and responds to local needs and creates opportunities for our city and our region to grow and thrive. Cecile?
Well, I love that I work tirelessly, but really I'm kind of the chief lip flapper and handshaker, as Alan, my old boss, used to say about himself. So I actually get to surround myself with great staff that do all this great work, which is the culmination of today. And I think the comments about setting the table is really what the staff has been working on really since I think light rail was first, the idea was brought to our head about what we could do on Central Corridor. So this is a small sampling of people in this room who participated in putting together the development strategy. I don't know how many, probably about 400 people I think we touched in putting together that strategy, and then capitalizing on that with our zoning study, which was the largest zoning study we've done since the 1970s, to make sure, again, that we're setting the stage and people understand what the expectations are for a development. But we also have to make it easy for folks. We have to make sure people understand and they have the tools that they need to come in, which is why we have this fabulous book, which really is a great summary of what we're trying to do here. In this book, you'll find summaries of each of the development strategy, information on the station area stops, information on stormwater management, et cetera. So the idea of this is that you can pick it up. It's a starting point for developers so they know where to start and where they go next when they want to move forward on this. I do want to say there's a lot of people who were involved in this, and I just want to acknowledge their work here. Anton Gervais, where is Anton? Was our lead planner on this. Tim Griffin with the Riverfront Corporation, Craig Blakely, Josh Kinney, Ellen Stewart, Jess Rosenfeld, Donna Drummond, Ellen Muller, Sarah Zorn, Tom Beach, Lucy Thompson, Ryan Kelly, and Patty Lillidahl all worked really tirelessly to put this together. And I think thank you. And the reason I think it's important to acknowledge those folks is because the city really does work very hard to try to make our city an inviting place for developers to come. We want people to be here. We do not want to be viewed as an entity that tries to say no, but to say yes and give people the tools. And I think another example of that is the fact that our Department Director Cervantes is here from Department of Safety and Inspections, who brings a totally different perspective, I think, also in terms of regulatory services, again, how to say yes and how to move projects forward. So thanks so much for being here. So again, we're hoping that what this will lead to, again, is more transit-oriented, truly pedestrian-friendly development. We want to make sure that people want to, when they're going on their train and they're looking out the window, that they can see beautiful real estate, proper signage, nice street trees, and that they're invited to get off the train and they're invited to stroll down the avenue and really take in all the great restaurants and other cultural amenities that University Avenue has to offer today and that will grow as we move forward. So again, thank you very much for being here.
Well, this is pretty much the end. But seriously, what we're going to do is really exciting now, and you all need to really get excited because we're going to unveil the new books. And I think Councilmember Carter is going to help me with this because it's definitely a two-person job.
1, 2, 3.